All right, everyone, I'm here today with Maddie Battle. She's going to be explaining to us and kind of giving us some insight on her business transformation, where she previously was making around 2,000 to 3,000 a month, to then in March she made 12,500 with her business, and then in April she made 8,500. And she's going to be giving us some insight as to how she went and was able to make that kind of transformation in such a short period of time. All right, so I'm super excited. Maddie helps women with clearing their acne. And I think what would be best, though, is if she could give us some insight and tell us more about how exactly she helps women, what her niche is, right? And then we'll get more into where she was when she first started with her business, with working with me, right? And then some changes that she's made that's allowed her to escalate her income like this. All right, Maddie. So just tell us a bit more about your niche, okay?
So I work with women helping them clear acne that's rooted in hormone issues. So hormone imbalances, whether that's from the birth control pill, whether they're wanting to transition off the birth control pill, or if they're on the birth control pill, or if they're dealing with cystic acne that's rooted in PCOS or other kind of hormone issues like that.
Great. Okay. I love it. So talk to us then a little bit when you first started working with me, and I think you joined in January, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about where your business was and what you feel like your biggest challenges were at that moment.
Mm-hmm. So before I started working with you, I was working on my own for maybe like 6 to 8 months, but I was really struggling with kind of niching down. So I was working with women with hormone imbalances, but there was no kind of like outcome that I was helping people get to other than like feeling good and all of the little side effects that you get from working on your hormone issues. But I had not decided on an exact outcome, such as like clear skin. So I was helping them with all these different things, which was great because I was still working with people, but I don't think there was enough of a specific target audience that I had before. If that makes sense.
Sure. So you would say probably that a big shift that helped you a lot is in the 2 to 3, maybe you were just able to attract more clients because the outcome was so much clearer for people with what they were getting with working with you.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of all these different things that, come from working on, nutrition and your hormones, it was more like, okay, this is exactly what I'm doing. It's so much easier for people, I think, to pick like someone who specializes in one little thing as opposed to someone who deals with all of these random issues.
Yeah, no, I know. And we also have to think from a perspective of what people are searching for, too.
Exactly. Yes, like a more searchable aspect as well, like physically when they're literally looking online for somebody as well.
Right, because I think I told you that a few years ago, it's probably been 3 years ago, I looked for someone with this exact thing because I was having adult acne.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And that's how I searched for it, is I was trying to figure out, because I was like, shoot, I've got all this adult acne, not really loving this. And I think we also talked about you were on Accutane at one point too.
I was
Right?
on birth control for really bad acne. So yeah, so similar like situation as to a lot of the women that I work with. So that also kind of helps too, is like I have personal.
Yeah, because you've really used your own story too with getting clients as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of women have said to me too, like, "Oh, I want to work with you because I know that you know what I'm going through. Like because I dealt with all of that. Like having acne is really hard on your confidence and
It is.
can be really difficult. So,
Especially as an adult, because you feel like I should be over this stuff now. Right?
yeah, totally. And it's just a sign that something is going on internally, right? So, like, as soon as you kind of start treating it like your body just saying, like, hey, like something's up, instead of just being frustrated with yourself, it can be like it's a whole different outlook on the whole journey.
I agree. So when we went from, we were making like 2,000 a month,
Mhm.
and then in March we made 12,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
So, what if you could give, because I'm sure other people who are watching this that are either at that range where you were starting, or maybe they're lower, or they're just feeling kind of stuck. What were three things that you changed that helped you make this kind of leap? Because that's pretty incredible to go to that. And that's like 3 months, really, if you think about it, because you started in January. So, yeah, let us in on that of what you
Yeah.
did.
Well, I think the first thing, is the niche, like definitely niching down to something specific that people are looking for, instead of having like an overarching, like, oh, I help people balance their hormones. Like, you have to think about what that means to someone who doesn't know anything about it.
Outcome oriented is what you did.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes, outcome oriented. Something that is like, hits home for people because people don't know if, unless you're educated in it, you're not sure what that even means. Like, okay, if I balance my hormones, like what's going to happen? So something outcome oriented, I found that was huge for sure. And just picking something more specific with your niche. And I think I really struggled with that in the beginning, like before I started working with you, because I was like, but I want to help so many people like deal with their PMS and their periods and like PCOS and like they're not ovulating and there's so many other things that I wanted to help people with, but you actually end up helping less people by not choosing something more specific.
Yeah. And I think
You know?
also it's the difference between whenever you're an expert at something, you're thinking process oriented. So you're thinking, this is the process that people need, right? So you're trying to
Mhm.
sell the process rather than the outcome.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure
exactly.
you probably still do some of that stuff to help women with clearing their acne, right?
Well, you're doing it all, like, you end up doing it all anyways, but it's just yeah, but the more that you're specific, the more people
It's
are
how it's
going to.
sold.
Yeah, it's how it's sold, exactly, and, like, I think that that's such a hard like, just seeing, newer nutritionists just, like, online, I think that's something that people really struggle with because I did and all of my friends did too after school, just being like, "I don't know what to pick because I wanna do all these things." It's like, it's actually you need to, like, change that mentality a little bit. The more specific you are, the more people you're gonna help. It's not the opposite like it feels like in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's something else? What's number two? What's something else you changed?
Mindset for sure. That was like probably even more just as important as the niching down for sure. Like just believe like have I think that's something that GYI is really important where was really like impactful is like the community aspect like with other people who are doing the same thing as you and which was really helpful in mindset in the way that like you get to like read people's comments and see how other people are doing and it makes everything feel like very possible for you whereas like I think as like a sole proprietor and you're most people are working totally on their own from home like maybe have a family or maybe not but either way like you're kind of working just with you like with you and it's hard to um I find that like the community aspect really helps with your mindset and the way that you see other people doing exactly what you want to do. Maybe they're a little bit farther ahead and it can be like really inspiring. But I do think that like having the mindset that you are going to succeed and you can do this and there's lots of people out there doing it, but like there's always room for more. There's always more people to help. I think that was huge as well because if you're kind of in this idea that like everything is hard and like getting clients is hard and making sales is hard, like it is going to be hard, you know?
I love it. Yeah, that's such a good point. Is that when you feel like something is going to be difficult, it is difficult. If you normalize it being much easier to attract clients and you start seeing that you're in a community of a lot of other women who are succeeding too,
Yeah.
it starts to become, oh, this is the norm,
Yeah.
which makes it so much easier. So it's the strategy and the mindset of doing that.
Yeah. The mindset thing is huge for sure. It's just like, your perspective is reality. So if you're just like, okay, this is going to be great. I'm going to have a great month and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and it's going to be awesome. Like it will be. And so that was a huge change as well.
I love it. Okay, so what's number three?
Number three, I would say is like showing up online consistently with the idea that like progress over perfection any day, you know?
Yeah.
We kind of have this idea, I think, that like as soon as you post something or put something out there, that's it, like that's done. So everyone's seen it and like it has to be perfect, but it doesn't. Like in reality, it's better to show up more and have, you know, have it be like not perfect or not exactly
Right.
what you want to do or whatever. Like post reels, just like showing up on stories or you know, whatever your like modality of marketing is, but it's so important to just be doing it consistently as opposed to waiting until it's perfect. And you just kind of like making sure that you're kind of showing up a lot instead of being kind of like nitpicky about what you're putting out there.
Yeah, I think this is where people get kind of hung up because you do need a strategy for doing
Yeah,
things, right?
for sure.
But simultaneously, a lot of people don't even do the thing because they're over analyzing.
Exactly. And I really was doing that before for sure. And the strategy is so important, but I think people get kind of like caught up in that. And then if they're not doing the exact strategy, then they're just not really doing it at all because they're nervous or they're scared of you know, not looking like they are like the biggest expert. But it's so important to realize that like whatever you have decided that you're going to help people with, like you know way more than anybody else. And it's so easy once
Yeah.
you're on like an online community to just like to think that, you know, you'll get imposter syndrome or I don't know enough as this person or
Yeah.
whatever. But in reality, the people that you're helping don't know anything compared to you.
They don't know anything. And also, you become more the expert. You start looking more also professional, so to speak, the more that you put out, too.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Whenever you first start, anybody's first video is going to look terrible. I know mine did.
Mine definitely did for sure.
And also, people don't care as much about presentation as we think, too. People would rather be like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that, and this is a different perspective of looking at this, and oh, here's how I get in contact with this person," rather
Exactly.
than, "Okay, this is the most beautiful 4K video I've ever seen in my life." That
Yeah. People don't care about that. Like, and I think that's kind of something that, you know, is kind of like counterintuitive at first is that like people think, oh, like, but if I put out all this information, you know, no one's going to like hire me. But it's actually the opposite of that. People really appreciate like how much you want to help people by giving out like information. And then they think like, oh my gosh, like if this is how much info she has out here, then like imagine what it'll be like working with them, right? That's
exactly.
absolutely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's also like a major block that I had before too, being like, hey, but how do I like balance between, you know, showing up online and helping people as much as I can and getting hired by people. But it turns out that it's better to just like show up and like help people as much as you can and then people will,
Because
you know,
people
end
aren't
up
even
like
buying info anyway. When they decide to work with you, they
exactly they're
aren't
looking they want to
buying
work with
info.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
Why, otherwise they go to the bookstore, right?
Exactly. It's like an experience for people. And I think that's something that like a lot of, especially like nutritionists that I know get so caught up in that. Not like what they're selling and how the program works and all these like little details. Like people don't care about that. They care about outcome and they care about who you are.
Yeah,
And if they connect with
exactly.
you. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it. People are buying the outcome and they're also buying into you. And
Mhm.
that's it.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to take this business next? Because I know that you talked a little bit about how your mindset has really improved. And I know we talked a little bit and you got kind of more of a bigger vision now of what you want this to be. So, I'd love for you to tell people kind of where you want to take this next.
Yeah. So I want to work on doing a like a group program. Right now I'm still doing one-on-ones, which I love so much. But yeah, I think having a group program is just going to make it more accessible for more people and be able to help more people, which will be good. And then you kind of get the option of like more of a self-paced program as opposed to just the one-on-ones. And I think that'll be good because then people also get the aspect of a community like in the same way that I love the community that like I'm a part of now. And I think that's something that people, like, especially women dealing with hormone issues, you feel so, like, alone when you're dealing with it because it can be so stressful and it feels like you don't know anybody else is dealing with it. So it would be so nice to if I could, like, provide a community for people as well. Yeah, and so
I
that's kind
love
of
it.
what
I
I'm on
love
now.
it.
Yeah.
What's one tiny piece of advice? So, if you were talking to you back when you first started, right? What would you
Yeah.
tell yourself? Like, what would be a piece of advice that you give that person?
I would say just believe that everything's going to work out and it will. Just act like if you were when you're working every single day, just act as if you're going to get to the spot that you want to be at. And if you do, then you will get there. Like
Right.
don't, negative thoughts and imposter syndrome and all these things like get in the way. Just work as if you know that like your success is inevitable, basically.
I love it. I love it. Great, Maddie. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Of
And I
course. Thank
appreciate it.
you.
I'm sure this is going to help other people too who watch this video.